I'm 32 and still training competitively to do something, like right now, the next goal is, well, I don't like to name my goals off just because, it gives you some level of accomplishment, but, I've got goals that I want to aim for in the future. And then after that, maybe look into an endurance sport and try, achieving something there. I don't know. I like pain a little bit. So it makes it easy to keep doing that. But, as a business owner, a gym owner, a coach, that's something that'll never leave me. Maybe at some point it's not as competitive, but always be training for something.
Oh, I think that's so cool. And it's so
Mhm.
congruent with like a growth mindset. One of the guys that I always love talking with is Mark Bell, and he's the
Oh yeah.
owner of, Slingshot and Super
Hmm.
Training. One of the things he's done that I'm so impressed with, because like when you're good at something, it's really hard to leave that thing. Like it was very hard for me to leave baseball. It was
Yeah.
very hard for me to leave CrossFit. Mark has like invented himself 3 or 4 times just
Mhm.
personally as an athlete, where he started as a power lifter and he was like, you know what? This just isn't it for me. I'm not getting what I need out of it. It's kind of
Yeah.
unhealthy. I'm going to try bodybuilding. He did that for a while. Now he's like getting into endurance training.
Mhm.
Do you know how hard it is for like big guys with lots of muscle, to look in the mirror and be like, you know what? All this muscle that I identify with my self-worth, I'm just going to get rid of that and be
And work
a
years
normal looking
for
person.
too.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
you know what? It's always there. Once you have it, it's always there. It's always going to come back quick, but it's hard to let go of that emotionally because there's that identity attachment to it and
Right.
that value, like guys looking in the mirror, be like, oh, I feel small. It's really hard to get over that. And it's hard to let go. But when you are able to do that, like every death also has a rebirth. And
Right.
you might be surprised at how fruitful and rewarding that rebirth can be. For
Mhm.
me, when I was doing CrossFit, like it was everything to me. It was my circle of friends, my career, my passion. I met my wife there. All we did was talk about CrossFit with all of our friends. I competed in CrossFit. Every day was like looking at the CrossFit websites and the
Mhm.
CrossFit podcast and CrossFit until your face was blue. And
Exactly.
then one day, I came to the realization where I'm like, I don't think this is the best thing for me anymore.
Hmm.
And it was really hard because there was so much attached to that was hard to kind of let it go. And I honestly did go through like a little bit of a depression, but when I came out of it, it opened up this whole new world to me in the shape of hypertrophy training and creating really this new kind of hybrid model of form and function or performance and aesthetics. And it was way more than I could have ever imagined.
Hmm.
And I think a lot of people that are subscribed to these name brands or methodologies, whether it be like CrossFit or powerlifting or Olympic lifting or Zumba or, F45, Orange Theory.
Yeah.
What I encourage them to do is think about them like, don't subscribe to the brand, subscribe to the principles,
Hmm.
because the principles have pliability, but the brand is finite, right? So like,
Exactly.
if you only subscribe to like, let's say CrossFit, bicep curls don't really line up with that, right? Doing certain things don't, like, even from a dietary or methodology perspective, it doesn't line up. But if you think about just kind of the principles of, hey, we're going to perform functional movements and we're going to change things up and we're going to learn to work with intensity. Now you have wide application. Doesn't need to be in a CrossFit gym, doesn't only need to be with the barbell. You know what I mean? Like you can do it in a lot of different ways, and you don't have to feel like you're betraying yourself or your community in some
Yeah.
way. And same thing with like diets too. Like you look at these diets that have name brands like carnivore diet or
Trendy
keto,
diets. Yeah.
intermittent fasting, right? And you're like, oh, I have to do this intermittent fast. I'm a vegan, right? That kind of stuff. And if
Hmm.
you think about the principles have a lot of pliability. Like, yeah, eat a carbohydrate restricted diet at times. It has some context and utility. Yeah, eat a diet that's rich in micronutrients. That has certain context and utility. Do intermittent fasting. That has context and utility. And also, you can go completely on the other side of things, and you could eat like a bulking bodybuilder diet, and that has context and utility too. It
Yeah.
just depends on where you're at and what you're trying to accomplish. But when you're locked into one, the things that those diets or training programs exclude exactly describe where you're going to fail.
Hmm.
So, it's nice to kind of maybe think about these things as like a palette of colors, where you're just painting a canvas and you have all these colors to kind of mix and choose from to be
Hmm.
able to create the picture that you want.